ready to enter a world of posturing babyfaces, retirement fake-outs, ridiculous title moments, non-wrestlers gobbling up valuable airtime on massive pay-per-views, and more? Well, you better be, because this is such an odd mix of sheer fun and horrors, it'd make Halloween blush. So I am Gareth here from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 times WWE totally trolled the universe. Number 10, Razor and Diesel are back. Jim Ross must have felt like crying when Vince McMahon told him his grumpy heel character would be used to facilitate quote-unquote comebacks for two of the WWF's most famous characters in late 1996. Note the wording there, JR was not bringing back the originals, but cosplay knockoffs who'd be playing Razor Ramon and Diesel respectively. Yeah, this was never gonna end well. The Federation hyped that Razor and Diesel were set to return for weeks, before Rick Bogner and Glenn That's Gotta Be Kane Jacobs marched out pretending to be Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. It was a pathetic swerve, one brutally defended by Bruce Pritchard via his podcast decades later. McMahon trolled his own audience here, then made them change the channel to watch The Real Deal be infinitely cooler as the NWO on WCW TV. There may never be a worse attempt to replicate success in pro wrestling than this. It'd be like some indie worker coming out on Raw next week as Seth Rollins, for crying out loud. Although, come to think of it, I would pay to see that. Number 9, The Undertaker's streak actually ends. This wide-eyed dude picture right here has gone down in history. He could not believe it when the ref's hand slapped the mat for a third time and the truth started to sink in. WWE had actually ended The Undertaker's iconic WrestleMania winning streak, and they'd given the win to a guy who didn't really need this kind of profile-boosting moment. Brock Lesnar pinned Taker at Mania 30, and the entire wrestling world stood around in disbelief waiting for some sort of dusty finish that had never come. Instead, everybody did their able best to rationalize why Vinnie Mac had pissed one of the show's most enduring gimmicks up against a nearby wall. Even those who loved Brock beating the streak, especially when Paul Heyman rubbed it in everyone's faces on the mic afterwards, also understand why it felt like a sick joke to many who believed a hot up-and-comer should have been handed that distinction over this already made beast. What a dodgy call. Number 8, Chris Jericho mocks the audience. Nobody really knew what to think when Chris Jericho returned to action on the 2nd of January 2012's Raw, and said nothing. The beaming babyface raised a microphone to his lips several times, but then put it down and shouted deliberately obnoxious words like, "Hey yeah!" as he encouraged the cheers that kept on coming. Eventually, they started to fade just a little, but Y2J's enthusiasm did not. He left the ring and posed in front of baffled onlookers, some of whom continued to act like their biggest hero was back in town. Oh yeah! It was a glorious display of trolling from someone who became a master of reinvention. When Jericho left, people were confused. Later, a horrifying realization started to dawn. Y2J had been using support for his nostalgia-fueled return against people, because it wasn't really a nostalgic trip down memory lane at all. How dare he sucker fans in such a way? Watch this moment back today and you'll still likely cringe even when you know the deal. And with that in mind, what is the cringiest wrestling moment you've ever seen on WWE TV? I know there's a lot, but try to narrow it down and let me know in the comment section below. Number 7, CM Punk's pipe bomb is yesterday's news. 2011 became known for the summer of Punk. It all started with CM Punk's headline-making pipe bomb promo in late June, but such merriment romped through July and August as the biggest story in wrestling. At Money in the Bank, Punk won the WWE title, blew a kiss at Vince McMahon, then walked on out of the company. How did the E cope with the earth-shattering show of defiance as their biggest belt was held hostage? Meh. Vince just created another one, and Rey Mysterio won a one-night tournament before quickly dropping the thing to John Cena. That was such a stupid move then, now, forever. Crowning a second champ during Punk's absence was a slap in the face to anyone who'd invested in the story at all. If WWE could just move on like this, then why should people care about anything Punk was doing to force change in the promotion? You, yes you, you're a fool for believing our biggest angle. Absolute madness. Number 6, Mark Henry's retirement fake-out. Despite winning world titles and being a WWF/WWE stalwart since the mid-1990s, one angle on the 17th of June 2013's Raw was definitely Mark Henry's finest hour. He'd been teasing fans with impending retirement on social media for weeks leading up to the show, then interrupted a John Cena promo to make his teary announcement. Or not! Henry successfully lured everyone into a false sense of security by telling his family he was coming home. People were literally crying along with him in the stands, and those same peeps were left stunned when Mark grabbed Cena for a meaty World's Strongest Slam before asking, "You think it's that easy?" Evidently not, Mark. This career best mic moment remains one of the biggest retirement fake-outs of all time. Henry's believable comments on Twitter and elsewhere elsewhere, tricked the fanbase into thinking he was really ready to call time on his in-ring career due to injuries. Then bang! WWE had a credible heel challenger for the top prize. And just a quick one while I've got you, thank you very much for subscribing to All Things What Culture Wrestling. Without you, none of this glorious wrestling list goodness is possible. Number 5, Dominik Mysterio's sudden NXT success. Twitter is hardly a haven for reasonable, balanced conversation at the best of times, but the place was positively blowing up with hate for Dominik Mysterio's recent NXT North American title win. Some people were legitimately hot that WWE brought Judgment Day to the third brand and put its mid-card strap on Dirty Dum Dum. Typically, those fans are missing the point, to be honest. You're supposed to hate this. That's why WWE decided to do it. They want scorching heat for Mysterio when he's grinning at cameras, as Rhea Ripley treats him like some darling toy boy lover who fully deserves to be called Dirty Dom by fans and peers alike. It's sensational trolling, I say. The best thing about all of this is that Mysterio is absolutely coming into his own. He's getting better all the time, and his best days are definitely ahead of him. The haters detest that, and WWE Creative knows they're stacking up resentment for Ray's kid by appearing nepotistic. Great work all around. Number 4, Vince McMahon becomes WWF champion. Vince Russo has eaten a lot of crap since 2000 for bunging the WCW World title on himself despite having zero in-ring skills. Meanwhile, Vince McMahon has largely been given a pass for anointing himself WWF champion before Russo had the chance to bury WCW's belt. Granted, McMahon was one of the best non-wrestlers to ever work some bouts, but his 1 week flirtation with the top of the mountain was a pitiful moment even when it happened back in 1999. This isn't some retrospective bashing, because people scratched their heads over this at the time too. Vince shockingly beat Triple H on the 16th of September 99 SmackDown, then vacated the title less than 1 full week later. As if that wasn't enough of a joke move, the WWF then shoved the belt back on Hunter at Unforgiven, and the McMahon experiment was forgotten. They were bloody at it there, weren't they? Number 3, Sheamus beats Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds. WrestleMania 28 is remembered for 3 things: The Rock defeating John Cena in the main event, once in a lifetime and all that, a thumping Hell in a Cell war pitting The Undertaker versus Triple H, and Sheamus torching Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds like some local jobber on an episode of C-Show main event. This is something WWE would call a WrestleMania moment. They'd argue that people are still talking about Bryan's embarrassment more than a decade on. Now sure, that is true, but Bryan Danielson is also one of the greatest professional wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots. So this was a kick in the stones to folks who fancied seeing his best on the grandest of stages. Even referee Charles Robinson was shook. WWE knew exactly what they were playing at with this one. They understood the yearning to see Bryan and Sheamus tear their house down, so they elected to book a swerve squash that no one could see coming. Because why would they? Number 2, Michael Cole gets 20 plus WrestleMania minutes. This was just plain unacceptable. Giving Michael Cole approximately 20 minutes of screen time at WrestleMania between entrances, wrestling and post-match shenanigans was a terrible decision. There's fun, silly wrestling comedy, and then there's just absolutely taking the piss. Hell, even Michael Cole himself understands that this just sucked. He said in numerous interviews that guilt set in once he realized his match versus Jerry Lawler at WrestleMania 27 was 13 minutes bell to bell, and thus one of the longest matches on the entire card. Only 3 other bouts were longer than this battle of the announcers. This simply had to be a behind-the-scenes giggle. Making people pay cold hard cash to see Cole sweat in an orange singlet was peak sports entertainment schlock. And not even the addition of Steve Austin could save it from pay-per-view hell. At least WWE didn't follow this with more Cole matches, huh? Oh wait. Number 1, Daniel Bryan's hasty Royal Rumble exit. Hashtag cancel WWE Network. That began trending almost immediately after the 2015 Royal Rumble had finished. People were not chuffed that Daniel Bryan, a pre-show favorite to win the whole damn thing, had been punted from the match after just 10 minutes of ring time. Keep in mind, this came 12 months after Bryan was pushed aside so a returning Batista could win the Rumble and look rather confused as fans rained boos down upon him. Now sure, that did work out well in the end, but Bryan Mania was still sweeping the business in 2015, and fans wanted an elusive Rumble win. They wouldn't get it, and there had to be some knowing looks backstage amongst key creative team members after watching Bray Wyatt toss Dan out of the match. The scene played out like some sort of bite-back attempt from management. Yeah, we gave you Bryan on top last year, now get lost. And that's exactly how you get folks excited for your biggest show of the year. Well played. And that's our list. Know of any other times WWE trolled the universe? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and don't forget to like, like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you like this sort of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles, just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Cheers for watching this video today, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye bye!